I don't want to do this work. Can agents do this? Thank you. Okay. So roughly speaking, I think there's a new category of consumer and manipulator of digital information. It used to be just humans through GUIs or computers through APIs. And now we have a completely new thing. And agents they're computers, but they are human-like, kind of, right? They're people spirits. There's people spirits on the internet, and they need to interact with our software infrastructure. Like, can we build for them? It's a new thing. So as an example, you can have robots.txt on your domain, and you can instruct or like advise, I suppose, web crawlers on how to behave on your website. In the same way, you can have maybe LLMs.txt file, which is just a simple markdown that's telling LLMs what this domain is about. And this is very readable to an LLM. If it had to instead get the HTML of your web page and try to parse it, this is very error-prone and difficult, and we'll screw it up, and it's not going to work. So we can just directly speak to the LLM. It's worth it. A huge amount of documentation is currently written for people. So you will see things like lists and bold and pictures, and this is not directly accessible by an LLM. So I see some of the services now are transitioning a lot of their docs to be specifically for LLMs. So Vercel and Stripe, as an example, are early movers here, but there are a few more that I've seen already. And they offer their documentation in Markdown. Markdown is super easy for LLMs to understand. This is great. Maybe one simple example from my experience as well. Maybe some of you know 3 Blue 1 Brown. He makes beautiful animation videos on YouTube. Yeah, I love this library so that he wrote Manin. And I wanted to make my own. And there's extensive documentations on how to use Manin. And so I didn't want to actually read through it. So I copy-pasted the whole thing to an LLM, and I described what I wanted, and it just worked out of the box. Like, LLM just vibe-coded me in animation exactly what I wanted, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So if we can make docs legible to LLMs, it's going to unlock a huge amount of kind of use. And I think this is wonderful and should happen more. The other thing I wanted to point out is that you do unfortunately have to, it's not just about taking your docs and making them appear in Markdown. That's the easy part. We actually have to change the docs, because anytime your docs say click, this is bad. An LLM will not be able to natively take this action right now. So Vercel, for example, is replacing every occurrence of click with the equivalent curl command that your LLM agent could take on your behalf. And so I think this is very interesting. And then, of course, there's a model context protocol from Anthropic, and this is also another way. It's a protocol of speaking directly to agents as this new consumer and manipulator of digital information. So I'm very bullish on these ideas. The other thing I really like is a number of little tools here and there that are helping ingest data in like very LLM-friendly formats. So for example, when I go to a GitHub repo, like my NanoGPT repo, I can't feed this to an LLM and ask questions about it because it's, this is a human interface on GitHub. So when you just change the URL from GitHub to git ingest, then this will actually concatenate all the files into a single giant text, and it will create a directory structure, etc. And this is ready to be copy-pasted into your favorite LLM, and you can do stuff. Maybe even more a dramatic example of this is DeepWiki, where it's not just the raw content of these files. This is from Devin. But also, like, they have Devin basically do analysis of the GitHub repo, and Devin basically builds up a whole docs pages just for your repo. And you can imagine that this is even more helpful to copy-paste into your LLM. So I love all the little tools that basically where you just change the URL and it makes something accessible to an LLM. So this is all well and great, and yeah, I think there should be a lot more of it. One more note I wanted to make is that it is absolutely possible that in the future, LLMs will be able to, this is not even future, this is today, they'll be able to go around and they'll be able to click stuff and so on. But I still think it's very worth basically meeting LLMs halfway, and making it easier for them to access all this information. Because this is still fairly expensive, I would say, to use, and a lot more difficult. And so I do think that lots of software, there will be a long tail where it won't like adapt, because these are not like live player sort of repositories or digital infrastructure, and we will need these tools. But I think for everyone else, I think it's very worth kind of like meeting in some middle point. So I'm bullish on both, if that makes sense. So in summary,